Axel MC131 and welcome back to Behind the Blocks in Minecraft 1.11 and happy 2017 everyone. I hope that you've all had a fabulous Christmas and a wonderful new year. I know I did. But I am back in Behind the Blocks and in Minecraft in general, and we are actually back on the Salty Dog server today to show you the second of the two contraptions that I briefly showed off in the tour video, and that is the spider experience grinder. And I'm quite excited about this one because it's something that I believe I mentioned in the video. It's very difficult to do, and I think I've achieved it quite well here. So, as we all know, we can make mob grinders in survival to gain experience and items very quickly. With zombies and skeletons, you tend to be able to make a system where you have water that flows them up and then across and then drops them so that they end up on half a heart. Now, with spiders, it's a little more difficult because they can actually climb up walls, and this setup here is my method for grinding spiders, as it were, to gain items and or experience from them. And it works on a very simple principle of crushing. And I'm actually just going to flip this into manual mode. So I'm going to let some spiders flow through here, and you'll see how they, the spawn is over there, and they'll flow down through this water into this puddle around here. And then, assuming they don't try and climb too many walls, they do sometimes, but eventually they'll kind of drop off and flow through. They will then just slide through into a zone here and get crushed. And that's how I've chosen to damage these spiders. So if this one, you gonna just hang out there? All right, I guess we'll have to wait for another spider. But I'm giving the explanation on the server because it's quite hard to actually create this in single player. And I didn't want to have to go to the trouble of making a spawner, and it was just easier to do the initial demonstration here. So here we go, here's a spider coming through. He's going to trigger the pressure plate and then get stuck in this little chamber and be squished. And it will actually squish him until he is on exactly half a heart, so he can then flow through and then just be punched. And that's it. And then we can just gather spiders. Now, this system also has an autonomous mode, for a very special reason. Now, because of the way this works, you can't AFK grind at this grinder. You can't just go away from your computer and just let them flow through, because they get backed up in this zone. However, if you switch it into auto mode, you won't get any experience, but it will fully kill all the spiders. So this guy should now die, and it will still collect all the items. So if you're just looking to gather string, then switch it into auto mode. But if you want experience from spiders or spider eyes, then you're going to have it in manual, and you're going to have to sit at your computer and smack them as they come through. So that is the only downside with this. And it is, of course, in auto mode it isn't flawless. There is, like, sometimes it will actually just let too many spiders through at once, and you'll get spiders on most of their health sitting here, but most of the time it works pretty well. And experience will sometimes get caught in the hoppers there, but you can just kind of stand on top of this glass here and let it flow through. So I will show you guys how this actually works, and the redstone behind the wall. You can see that it kind of protrudes through, and it's not very well covered, but I don't mind that. I like being able to see all the moving parts. But I'll show you how it all works in my single-player world, where I have a, as per usual, the skeleton mock-up. So we'll switch to that and show you how it works. Okay, so here we are back in the single-player world. This is the new Behind the Blocks world, and you can see the setup behind this. So this is just a replica of the second pool. So the spider spawner would be over there. Water pushes the spiders down here, and then they get caught in this pool and flow through here. Now, this is all open so that you can see all the redstone behind it, and there's a few things that I'm going to point out about the mechanics of this. Now, as you may have seen, the way that I'm killing these spiders, or almost killing the spiders, is by crushing them, and that seems to be the safest and most sensible way of damaging spiders without you taking into account that you can't drop them because they climb up walls, and it's a little bit tricky to get them to drop a certain height. So, we're crushing them in a little chamber over here, and we've got pistons that actually only allow one spider into this chamber at once, and those are the interrupt pistons. We've got a initial interrupt piston there and a second one here, and I'll show you those working. So if we go around the back with the redstone here, we'll be able to see how this is actually triggering. So when the spiders flow through here, there is a pressure plate here which sets off the entire thing. Now when this pressure plate is triggered by a spider sliding over it, it will send a pulse through this long delay here to a monostable circuit, our sand block on top of a piston, and it will trigger a short pulse through here and toggle this T flip-flop. And that basically moves this block across and engages this circuit here. And this does two things through 4 pistons. First of all, it extends the crushing pistons, which are these two here with the yellow blocks on the end of them, and they basically squash the spider into a space too small for it to survive in. And then the other thing it does is has a redstone line across here, and another one down and under the thing, which toggle the interrupter pistons, and that basically stops other spiders from sliding into the zone while there's already one in, and stops the spider in the zone from sliding out prematurely. So you can see that demonstrated if I've got a command block here that will spawn a spider, and we should be able to demonstrate that. So if he flows through here, triggers that, there's a short delay, and then this stops any other spiders from flowing through here, and this stops him from sliding out. And once he's down to half a heart, it'll open up and let him slide through. Now, the way that I've got the timing set up is with a long line of repeaters, and this is a mechanic that you should only attempt in survival if you have access to a lot of repeaters. And I believe that we have 18 here, and you can count them there if you want. 18 is the magic number for this particular setup, but basically what that does is it sets a delay. When the spiders stand on that pressure plate and trigger through here, not only does it toggle this, but it also sends a short pulse down this line and then back up, and that gives us our delay, which deals exactly 15 hearts of 15 damage, or 7.5 hearts of damage to the spiders before it then toggles the flip-flop again and reopens it, and that basically retracts all the pistons and lets the spider flow out. Now, setting up the toggle between auto and manual mode is actually fairly simple. All we need to do is extend the length of this delay by a tiny amount, like one more repeater, so that the spider is completely killed. And we can do that with a little mechanic here. So we've actually got a second line of redstone that comes around here with another repeater. Now, normally, that is ignored because there's a redstone line that just goes straight into this piston. But if we retract this block through this piston, which, as you notice, comes around to the lever over here, flip that up, this piston now retracts, and you see how this redstone dust is now linked to the dust down here. It's basically just bypassed this piston and will no longer travel directly into it and no longer activate it. So it actually has to go through this extra repeater, and that will kill the spiders outright. And I can demonstrate that once again by summoning another spider. There we go. Let him step in, and now, and in fact I can go over here and you can see that pulse travel down the delay, and it'll go down the side, and then toggle the system, and the spider has been straight up killed. And we get, of course, string and spider eyes through here. So, that is the basic mechanic of the system. It's a simple principle, but it requires a bit of delicate placement of blocks. And on the server, I don't know if you could actually tell, but the mineshaft that I found that spider spawner in is actually very, very close to bedrock. So some of these bits I was actually having to build around bedrock, which was fairly complex. That was not fun, and I would not recommend it to anyone else. So the system on the server is not the same as this. It had to be like wiggled around and twisted in various different directions to fit around bedrock. But we managed to get it to work in the end, so that is good. But this is definitely a much neater redstone circuit, I think. But that is how it works, and of course, if you have a spider in the chamber, you can actually flip this and toggle it between auto and manual modes while there is a delay coming around this circuit. It's absolutely fine, it'll still work, and all the experience will be gathered. All the experience and items will be gathered at this end. Final thing, it doesn't actually matter where your spider spawner is. How you get them to this place, see this, like, I've got like a 3x3 area cut out here. This is where you want your spiders to drop in. How you get them here is completely up to you, and it will absolutely depend on what resources you have available to you, where the spider spawner is, and whatever else you think looks nice and will work most appropriately. As you saw in the server, mine just has a single water stream that just pushes the spiders down to the corner. And yeah, so now that you've seen how this actually works, I'm going to show you guys how to build this. Now, bear in mind that it's quite complex, and this is a more complex system than a few of the other ones I've built, simply in the number of blocks that it's using. So it's not compact at all, in case that wasn't obvious. But we'll show you guys a tutorial on how to build this straight away. Okay, so here is the area that I've set up to show you guys how to build this, and there's a few things that I have put out already. Now, first of all, the catchment zone, as I'm calling it, which is where your water stream is going to be, needs to be a 3 by 5 rectangle. Your spiders are going to come in at this end on these 3 blocks, doesn't matter where they land, as long as they land somewhere in here. Your water source block is going to be in this far corner, and you're going to have these 2 blocks cut out. This is where the spiders are going to flow through, and then this is the crushing zone. Now, as you can see, I've labeled a few things here. This is where the water is. That's where your trigger plate is going to be. That's the first interrupter piston. This is the crushing zone. This is the collection zone, and this is where the second interrupter piston is going to extend to. And all these 8 blocks are going to be hoppers. And then finally, you will have a chest here. Now, I've got a few blocks set out just so that you guys can get an idea of what you're going to need. There's quite a few, but you can toggle these as you want because some of them are up to you for decorative purposes, like the glass. I chose glass for a lot of the mechanics simply because I like to be able to see that everything's working, and I like seeing all the moving parts behind everything. So we're going to grab some blocks, and I'm going to start setting out some stuff. Now, the first things that we're actually going to need are the triggering plate and the pistons. So we'll actually grab stain hunt clay, repeater, yeah, that should be all we need for the moment. So, now the first things that we want to set out is where our crushing zone is. Now the crushing zone is right here, so we want to have a couple of blocks behind here. We want 2 pistons, 2 sticky pistons, facing inwards with a 1 block space, and then put 2 blocks just in front of them that will move into this space. Now normally a spider would be able to pass through here perfectly fine, but when these blocks are extended, the spider will be being crushed. Now I want to put in our interrupter pistons. Our first one's going to go on the side of the wall here, facing inwards, and then technically that's the second interrupter piston, the outward interrupter piston. This is the inward interrupter piston, and we're just going to put it in this block here, facing straight up. Now our trigger plate is going to sit right here in the corner, and just before we do anything else, sometimes you will have spiders come through here, trigger the plate, and then climb up the wall. To stop that happening, stick a block there. That will mean that by the time the spiders get to this point, the water has pushed them under this block, and they actually can't go up anymore, and they have to go through there. So that stops spiders from activating the system without actually being crushed. So put that in now, just in case you forget, because that's quite an important piece. Okay, so we're going to run down here, and we're going to break open these blocks where the trigger plate's going to be. We're going to have a block out from there, and we're going to stick a repeater out this way. I'm actually going to go and grab some redstone dust quickly. Here it is. There we go. And we're going to bring a block out with some redstone dust on top. 1, 2, 3 more, and then 1, 2, 3 more repeaters, and set all of these to 4 ticks. So that's their maximum delay. And that is our initiation delay, which will allow the spider, once it triggers this plate, to flow into the crushing zone. Now, there is a 1 block hole here. You can leave this if you want, or you can close it up. I actually left mine partially open, and I had it in a slightly different configuration, but the spiders can't actually flow through here. Okay, so now that we've got this, we're going to start setting up our T flip-flop. So we're going to have a regular piston facing straight up. We're going to go and grab a sand block, and I like to use this method because it saves on slime blocks, on slime balls rather, so you don't have to use a sticky piston for a flip-flop if you have a sand block that obeys gravity, because it'll just go up, and then the piston retracts, sand falls down. And this is a method I've used quite a lot. So we're going to have a block out this way with a repeater, don't change the delay there, and we're going to have our sticky piston is going to be a block up like that. Make sure there's a block under it, we're going to need it for later. We're going to have another moving block there, and we're going to go this block here. So imagine when this piston is going to be extended, the block under it, that's where a redstone torch is going to be. So we're going to go 1 block further down, and then we're going to start building this sort of ladder up to where these pistons are. So we're going to do something like that, and this redstone line is actually going to be brought across the top here. So if I quickly grab our redstone dust again, there we go. We're going to bring this redstone dust up here, so it's going to activate both these pistons, and then it's going to go across the top here, and then activate this one as well. So that will activate the crushing pistons and the second interrupt piston. Now let's just grab our redstone torch to finish that circuit, like so. So when this block is extended, those pistons will all extend as well. Now, one more thing that we're going to need is the line to the first interrupt piston. We're going to need our stone slab for this, and there's a special reason for this. We have to bring the circuit underneath the other delay here. So we're going to have to go down and across, and if we put redstone dust there, you will notice that it can't go through this block. So we have to quickly just smack out that, put a stone slab there, or actually a half slab of any choice, it doesn't actually matter. Put the repeater back on, make sure you set it back to its full delay, and then go back under here and go down another, and then across a few, and put some redstone dust on those. Now we need to find where our interrupt piston is. It's right there. So if you're building in a open area, then you'll be able to see that, but you may need to estimate. We're going to smack out that block there, so you can see the piston is right there. Stick a block under here, and we're going to have a repeater going into that block, so that will activate that piston. Now we just need to build another redstone staircase, just coming down to there. And that will allow this redstone circuit to activate all the pistons. So once again, we can test that just by clicking that, and now you'll see that the interrupt piston is extended at both ends. Excellent. So let's just remove that. So now the next thing that we need is the delay, which is then going to reactivate that flip-flop and close everything again. So we're going to take our blocks, and we're going to go a number of blocks in this direction. Now, you can make this line any shape you want. You can do a big circle, you can do wiggly lines everywhere you want, however you think is going to be most space efficient, as long as you remember one key thing, or two key things rather. First of all, if you have the manual and auto switch modes, you need to have a piece of redstone dust, which is going to run into that piston there, and then that's going to allow you to have your little extra piston toggle. And the second, and perhaps more important thing, is that you need 18 repeaters. Doesn't matter how you align them, as long as you have in series 18 repeaters all set to their full delay. So I'm just going to place them all out in this setup. So that's 18, including that last one there. And we're going to make sure that these are all linked up. And then the tedious process of setting these all to 4-tick delay. So here we go. Okay, so we now have an 18 piston delay, and 18 repeater delay, and each of those are set to their full delay possible. And that will allow the spiders to fall to half a heart while in the crusher, and then the crusher will open up for them. Now, we're not going to test this yet because there's one more thing that we want to implement, and that is the toggle. So we're going to grab our lever, we're going to grab our orange stained clay, and before we do that, we're going to grab one more thing, which is that we need to have another sticky piston with a block. We're going to put it just like a yin-yang with this one, so go to this block and place piston facing that way, sticky piston remember, and then a block on the end of it. So you can see we've got this yin-yang type setup there. What we're then going to do is going to grab our hard lime clay again. We're going to go 1, 2, and 1, 2 out, so we've got this square, and make sure it's parallel with this. Redstone dust there, and there, and then we're going to grab a repeater, stick it there, and make sure that this one is again set to full 4-tick delay. Now we're going to grab our lever and our orange hardened clay, and we're going to bring in line so that this redstone on here will activate this piston. We're going to bring it all the way down here, and you can see I've got a little scaffold there to mark where it needs to be. And we're going to have our lever on the end there, so that we can toggle that mode, and then bring redstone dust all the way down here, and it should be just long enough to activate this piston. Now again, this is one that if you prefer to, you can vacuum fit this line to the rest of the mechanics, but I've just left it extended in this big L shape to show you how much redstone you're going to need. So now if we flick that lever, we should be able to extend that piston and cut off these two wires. So this will now prioritize by immediately toggling this piston, as opposed to if we then flip the lever again, and now it will ignore it on the first try and then go round this way instead with the extra delay. Okay, so that is all the redstone that you're going to need. Now finally we need to set up the crushing system itself. So I'm just going to chuck a whole lot of blocks back in here, and there's a few more things we're going to need. Other than a water bucket, we're also going to need a chest, hopper, fence if you prefer, and lime carpet. Now a couple of these are optional, and a couple of these are not, and I'll show you why in a minute. So the chest is going to go right there. This is where your collection zone is going to be. If you want to have a double chest, you can. I'm just using a single chest because this is quite a slow gathering process. And we're going to take out all these 8 colored blocks here, these purple and red ones, and we're going to put hoppers in every single one of them. And they're all going to end up leading to that chest. So we're going to put hoppers like this, like there, and we're also going to have hoppers going from the side and then all the way down again. There we go. So we've now got hoppers leading under all those blocks into the chest. We're also going to fill in the rest of these blocks with some glass so that spiders can't escape out the sides, and we're also going to do it over the top. There we go. we're going to stick an oak fence there, and that will stop the spiders from being able to escape out, but still let you get close enough to them that you can punch them. And then one last thing, we're actually going to put lime carpet. Now, there's a special reason that I did this, and it's completely optional. Basically, when you have spiders come through and you smack them and you get the experience from them, the experience can fall down into these hoppers because, those of you that know, hoppers actually have a physics where you can fall into the little hopper, the little hole there, so experience orbs will do that as well, and they will actually fall in and get stuck. Now, at the back there, that can't be helped because there is water on this side and pistons extending, and they will knock carpets off. But on these three particular hoppers, you're perfectly safe to put carpet there, and it doesn't 100% fix the problem, but it helps. It means that any experience that happens to fall in this area will be much easier to bring out. But then again, of course, if that does end up happening and it gets stuck back there, you can just stand on top of the glass, and the experience will try and float up to you, and you can then kind of drag it back across the ceiling, and it'll go whoop and pop out the end. It's quite fun. Anyway, so now I'm just going to fill in a little bit of the ceiling over here, and make sure to put this block back in because the water will try and escape there. And then finally we're going to grab our water bucket and stick it in this corner here. There we go. And it should flow through into the corner there, up to that pressure plate, and then over the first two hoppers there. Okay, so that is everything that we need. So, whoops. No one saw that. Stick everything else back. And now we're just going to grab a spider spawn egg and start spawning some spiders and see if this is actually working. So by default with this lever up, by the way, it will actually be in the auto mode. To turn it into manual mode, make sure that lever is down, or if you've got a different setup here with torches or whatever, this piston is extended so that this line is going straight into that piston. That's the manual mode. So we're just going to spawn a spider and see what he does. Flows through, activates the pressure plate, and then he becomes crushed. And of course, he will then be left on half a heart, and you can then just stand here and punch the spiders as they come through. And there you go, you can see the experience. Some of it gets stuck in the hoppers, but some of it will land on the carpet and be given directly to you. And of course, if it lands in the hopper, just stand up here and then walk to the back, and it'll just whoop like that. So let's just try that again in auto mode, and this will fully outright kill the spider. So it'll flow through, activate that, crushing process begins, and now it should deal an extra few ticks of damage, just enough to kill him. And there we go. It's as simple as that. So one more thing just to show you is the interrupt piston at work. So if we spawn a couple of spiders here, so if I just spawn one there, give it a few moments, and then spawn another one, it'll actually block the spiders from going through while there's already one in the chamber. So he'll go through and then eventually be crushed, but the next one will be held out of the way. And it's not flawless. If you like manually spawn a whole bunch, they'll try and all go through at once, but at the rate that a normal spider spawner spawns spiders, that's almost a tongue twister, it's slow enough that they won't kind of just all rush through. So they'll spawn and they'll kind of flow down when the previous one's in there, and they'll sit like this for a while. And if you want to try and like stress test this, you can kind of just keep spawning them and see what happens. But of course, spiders have their own hitbox, and those ones are actually going to die a little early because I've managed to spawn them in a wall. But there you go. And we've got a spider escapee again. It's Barry the Spider Mark II. Deary me. Oh dear. But there we go. That is the spider experience grinder. It's definitely not for the faint-hearted. I mean, it's not massively complex compared to some of the creations out there, but for survival, I think it works really quite well. And for being a spider grinder, which, as far as I know, they are like infamously difficult to make, this one works fairly well, and I'm quite happy with it. So there you go. And yeah, that is all I have for you guys today. So as you can see here, it's not 100% foolproof, especially not if you're forcing spiders through, but it works most of the time. So that is all I have for you guys today. So I hope you have enjoyed. If you liked, please leave a like. If you want to see more, then subscribe and stay tuned. And direct all your thoughts, questions, and feedback to the comments below. But yeah, guys, thank you very much for watching. I've been AxelMC131, and I'll see you next time.